Thank you all for being here, and Al and Mike, I'm grateful for the opportunity because, as you said, this is a rare opportunity, especially for a candidate like me who is relatively new to the political arena. I'm not allowed to have my column anymore, so you can't hear from me that way. And so this kind of forum provides the kind of opportunity that I think benefits all of us. It lets me hear what is animating so many of you, especially all the students who are backbenching. I used to do that. And also you hear from me about my ideas and vision for the state. I have to call out Greg as well. Greg and I worked for the governor in the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security in those first couple years, and I am indebted for his friendship for this many years. I am going to talk a little bit about my vision for Massachusetts and why I'm in this race and why I am a unique candidate, but also uniquely qualified to be the next governor. I can do that, I think, first and best by describing who I am and my experiences and what led me to this moment of running for governor. And then talk about some of the challenges I think that we face as a city, as a state, and as sort of as we look forward to the future that we envision for our great state. Because this is a campaign about the future. I believe, my animating theory about life, and certainly having been in and out of government, is I actually believe in government's capacity to do good. It's as simple as that. I have seen it every day in my line of work. I also believe that government can always do better. There's just no finish line, especially for a state like ours, as progressive and exciting and sometimes fearless as we are. It's just a constant push for the state that we are always becoming. And that state that I envision and that state that we will work together for is one that is the most welcoming, the most connected to each other, and of course the most prepared for whatever challenges come our way. That is our common goal, and that is a goal that will unite all of us. I am a Democrat. I do not believe we need a course correction after 8 years of this governor. I also don't believe everything's perfect, right? I mean, it's just, you just keep pushing. That's what you should demand of the next leader. And I'll explain how I will do that and the skills I bring to this race, unique skills for that. I began as a civil rights attorney. I have a strong progressive bent and a commitment to progressive politics, of leveling the playing field, of opening doors, because I do believe amazing things happen in that regard. And those are traditional cases about desegregation and women's access, which has, and women in the military, which has been a key theme of mine throughout my career, including involvement with the Virginia Military Institute and Citadel cases. I was hired by Deval Patrick, the Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights in the Clinton administration, to be a young attorney in the Civil Rights Division at that time. One of those cases that really did animate me was based on a phone call I got. I was sitting in my office in DC, I think 26 years old, and a lawyer called from Petaluma, California, district. I don't even know how he found me, and said, look, we've got a football team that is essentially harassing the girls out of school. Some of them had actually gone to private school. And the school district's doing nothing. Now, this is now going to sound familiar to you because we know that this happens. Is there something the federal government can do? And so we looked at it, and it would be a historic case in this regard. And we looked at it, we thought, they're getting Title VI funding. They're getting federal funding. Let's see whether that is sort of like constructive harassment, right? That this is a form of constructive harassment. We actually looked into it. And I brought one of the first cases, what we called then legally peer-on-peer harassment, we now call it bullying, to ensure that school districts, which are in a parental mode for so many of these girls, and let alone all students in the classroom, to ensure that they were providing equal opportunity for the girls in the room. That is how I thought about that case, how I thought about how the law could be creative, how government could be creative, and in particular, protecting young girls. But obviously, that is only one piece of what a governor should do. And so the rest of my career was really based on a multidisciplinary approach to Homeland Security. That scares a lot of Democrats in the room. Let me tell you what I mean by it. Homeland Security is about risk reduction. It is about anticipating the challenges we have and harnessing the collective goodwill of all of our communities to make us safer, more secure, more resilient to whatever the challenges are. When I was asked, again, by Deval Patrick to join him as his Homeland Security advisor, as well as Undersecretary for Homeland Security, it was a dual role. We inherited the Romney administration the way that they approached it. It was also during the Bush administration. We had an opportunity to start anew, and that was essentially what the governor wanted to do. It was 5 or 6 years after September 11th. We are a progressive state. Many of the things that were being done were inconsistent with who we were as a state. And so telling you a few anecdotes will tell you about how I think about management. First, I had a rule: no purchases before plans. This was a time, some of you who are a little bit older will remember, lots of money going out to jurisdictions, 351 cities and towns, and it didn't seem to have much meaning or consistency. I stopped the money flow to 351 cities and towns for communications and what we called interoperability, and said we have to come up with a plan. We first, right? Because it doesn't make sense. We're just all buying radios and all these gizmos, and it's not making sense. So we started 9 months of a review process, interdisciplinary, from the National Guard to public health professionals, all the pieces of who we look to as citizens to help us. Came up with a plan and then allowed the purchases to go forward and the planning to go forward, so that this state is now more, can communicate better. As I said, nothing's perfect, but that different disciplines can communicate not just during a crisis, but during their day-to-day work. Being a governor is about anticipating challenges as well. This was a time when we knew that BRAC and the threat of what the Pentagon might do to Hanscom was real, and it might be real again. I am the only candidate with strong ties to the military and veterans. I oversaw the National Guard when I was Homeland Security advisor, was in charge of a deployment calendar to a war I didn't even believe in. That's what sometimes you have to do. And a young colonel named Scott Brown actually did report to me because I was the civilian head. Just like to say that every once in a while. And so what we had to do is figure out how could Hanscom be more solid and secure, given what the Pentagon was looking at. Because Hanscom, Democrats don't talk about it enough, but our military and technology industry around that corridor and in terms of protecting that corridor is really strong. So we decided, to move the National Guard over to Hanscom, a move that just happened last year. It was in Milford. It didn't make a lot of sense operationally or strategically. To anticipate how could Hanscom survive the Pentagon looking at it. And having the National Guard with the public and private sector has made Hanscom, I believe, not just vibrant, but also probably BRAC protected. How else did I think about it? I really did focus on training and exercises. I'm not a big gizmo fan when it comes to public safety. We moved a lot of the funding from thinking about the guns and radios to training and exercises. And that's what we focused on. And that's, to be honest, what you saw at the Boston Marathon. Those split-second decisions to get runners off of Boylston Street onto Commonwealth Street. That doesn't come because someone's lucky. I don't believe in luck. I believe in preparedness. That's because for years we had been practicing a series of responses to whatever could come our way. At the moment that happened, no one knew actually what had happened to protect people. I also have to say that a good use of state government is pushing back on the federal government. I stood with the governor when there was that massive New Bedford raid. It was inconsistent with immigration raid. It was inconsistent with who we were as a state. That is a role of a governor, right? You just push back. And we protected as many of the women we could to the raid, and we pushed back on the federal government, which had come into town with 300 federal agents to arrest apparently 3 guys, but in the process detain 300 women. comprehensive immigration reform is a huge part of why I'm on the campaign and what I believe in as actually the daughter of immigrant family. I then moved and took that same skills about thinking across borders and silos of both agencies as well as communities to the federal government. I'll be quick in terms of what I did for Obama. Part of what Homeland Security is investments in making us more resilient and prepared. And that means thinking about regional planning, thinking across borders, thinking about the challenges we face, whether they're guns or climate change or two brothers down the street, whatever it could be. And getting people engaged in their communities, right? I mean, getting them invested. That is what I learned overseeing intergovernmental affairs. I was the access point for 50 states and over 300 urban districts. My big moment, let's just say, was when the oil spill happened. We were not responding as well as we should have. And for the first time ever in U.S. history, the president announced what was called a National Incident Command for an oil spill. This was no ordinary spill. It cut across 5 states. 60 or 70 federal agencies and departments were involved, and we were not responding in the way that we had to for those communities. Think about it, Hurricane Katrina communities, poor communities, impoverished communities, communities that were just looking into the government to fix it. They didn't care if we were Democrat or Republican. So the president announced the National Incident Command. I served as its director, and that meant putting pieces together when people need them to be put together. And it meant working with 5 Republican governor states. Every morning I was on the phone with the likes of Bobby Jindal and Haley Barbour and I forget all their names. And who is the one? Oh, Rick Perry. 3 men who that was actually totally, I forgot the third one, right? Oh my goodness. But let me just tell you that I was on the phone with them for 100 mornings straight. It did not matter. 3 of them, those 3, were going to possibly run against the president the following year. And I do believe in the need to negotiate. I don't believe compromise is failure. I think about reaching big and strong, but also knowing. I guess my philosophy is I don't let the perfect be enemy of the good. And those are who I am as a candidate and how I think about the road ahead. My vision for the state, as I said, is for it to be the most welcoming, the most connected, and the most prepared for whatever challenges we face. And those challenges are big, but they are also opportunities. We have to view them as such. Otherwise, we just stick our head in the sand and think it will either go away, but actually it will only get worse. I am excited about the future of Massachusetts because economic growth and the kind of growth that we need for our citizens is going to come by thinking outside the silos, not viewing government as the hammer to a nail, but actually working across, as I have, 351 cities and towns to make Massachusetts stronger and better. How do we do that? That is investments in 2 core principles that have guided me throughout my entire career. It's investments in people, and it is investments in infrastructure. Those, Republicans sometimes say Democrats are not business friendly. I have worked with the business community all my life. I have been dependent on them for a number of crisis management incidents. Democrats are business friendly, let me tell you, because our investments because my investments and focus on people as well as infrastructure, those are the 2 backbones of what makes Massachusetts amazing. I have been to 44 other states. We are in a competition. We will win if we just remember it is about the people and about infrastructure. So let me start with people very quickly. This is not just about making social services work or increasing minimum wage. It is about education, workforce development, protecting our unions, and comprehensive immigration reform. It is about getting as many people to the table who are going to push us forward. The gap that we see between our workforce needs, between our needs as a state and the companies that are going to come here and thrive here, and our workforce is too big right? It's about 20 or 30,000 jobs. We can fix it. It's an opportunity. We have amazing community colleges, amazing public-private partnerships, amazing vocational schools like the Putnam School that I have visited. We can do this. We just have to focus on people, because once those jobs are filled, then the economy gets moving. The second piece, though, is infrastructure. It is no joke. We are not ready for the global economy that we should be winning in. Anyone who followed my reading knows I love ports. We are a port state. Our ports are not ready to compete in the global maritime competition, and they should be. It's about investments in regional transportation authorities so that our gateway cities can move individuals from work to home to school. It is the cycle of life, right? It is not rocket science. If we can commit to regional transportation authorities, people are connected, they move faster. Communities that are often do not have access to cars can get into the job market. And then it's, of course, about broadband. I cannot be business friendly out west for precision manufacturing if I cannot promise broadband for companies that will be there. This is how I think about the challenges, because they are opportunities. And I am the only candidate who is not only talking about making government work in those complex fashions, who's thinking about my state and federal experiences as relevant to Massachusetts competition with 49 other states. I am the first candidate who put the big other issues on the table. Criminal justice reform. I had a plan as early as October. It's broken, period. I'll answer questions on it, and I have strong ideas for how we can learn from other states, much stronger states. Climate change adaptation. I don't want to give up on creating a more green world for my children, because that's actually who it's about. Not just mine, all of yours as well. I don't want to give up on it, but I also don't want to be the woulda, shoulda, coulda governor. It's coming. I got into trouble for saying I don't debate climate change. I don't. I look at the science, and it's my responsibility as governor to know that I don't want to knock on wood the next time Hurricane Sandy comes along. We missed it by 8 hours in high tide. I'm not going to be the woulda, shoulda, coulda governor. We can do regional approaches, change zoning laws. And finally, I will end on this, veterans. We owe them a lot for what they have done for us, even if we disagreed with the wars, as I certainly did with the Iraq War. But we shouldn't just view them as a moral obligation. They are actually an asset to this state. The skills that they bring and that they learned, their access to GI Bills and the money that they can bring to our educational institutions are opportunities for us. And I have a commitment to making sure that the 1% who did so much for us over the last 11 years and 12 or 13 years are with us and stay here for a long time. This is who I am. I talk too long, but as I said, as the unknown candidate, I'm never given this opportunity. It is about mobility. That is who we are as a state. We always move forward, and I am grateful for the time to provide both how I have done that in the past and how I hope to do it in the future with all of you. So thank you very much.